I recognize the off-site delegate. Oh, you just left the procedural mic. Okay. Like I said, we have a little tablet up here. That's how we keep track of the people who are off-site. May I ask the youth observers to go to the pro mic, which is where we move amendments to the bylaws, while I explain what high school age for the Unitarian Universalist Association. We have a policy that states that high school age is grades 9 through 12 or their equivalent in homeschool, or 14 to 18. If an 18-year-old is still in high school, that person is high school age. If a person is younger than 18 but taking primarily college courses or not in high school, that person is not a youth by our policy. Does that make sense to everyone? Very well. I recognize Bailey Saddlemeyer, Senior Youth Observer to the Board of Trustees, and Tanner Linden, Junior Youth Observer to the Board of Trustees. Tanner, will you please make the appropriate motion?
Moved that the proposed bylaw amendments to alter language to Bylaw Article 6, Section 6.3, Membership, Section 6.4, Election of Trustees, Section 6.5, Term, Section 6.6, Qualifications of Trustees, and Rule G-9.13.2, Order of Names on Ballot, as detailed on page 77 of the final agenda, and as amended in the mini-assembly, be adopted by the Assembly.
Is there a second? Very well. The motion has been moved and seconded. We are ready for discussion.
Here's your question. How do you honor youth who contribute to our and your communities?
Oh, we didn't do the board statement of paper. Probably...
We did. It's just not on my particular script. They did a pro statement. They did a pro statement after second discussion. That's fine. Bailey's ready for the statement. That's what she's prepared for. She was waiting for it to happen after discussion. Right. I reviewed it with Tanner regularly. So I'm double checking. So there's an imaginary pause between move, second, and the board statement. So we
What if two different things? Is that just maybe, oh, because that's the question.
All right. Before we start with our line of folks at the procedural mic, I've been asked to remind or to say that there are some, according to the rules of Massachusetts, the laws of Massachusetts, there are some things that youth would not be able to vote on. That is in our board policies and procedures, what youth are able to vote and not able to vote on. I recognize the delegate at the procedural microphone.
Anita Farber Robertson, Melrose Unitarian Universalist Church, Melrose, Massachusetts. I'm the minister there. And my concern is about inclusion, that the definition of youth was bracketed by where they are in relation to high school schooling, whether it's homeschooled or in a formal institution. I presume we are allowed to have youth in our congregations who, for whatever reason, are not in high school. Either they've dropped out or been expelled or whatever. And I would want those youth to be able to also participate.
Thank you for that. From what I understand, the definition of youth does include age.
Yes.
Yes, not just high school status. I recognize the delegate at the procedural microphone.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Kathy Hickok from Neshoba Church in Memphis. I'm not completely clear how many voting members there are on the board now, and whether these two youth trustees that we might elect would be full voting members with the rest of the board, making a total of how many members on the board?
Good question. 13. How many trustees? Voting trustees are there? There's 11 plus moderator plus financial, right? Yep. All right, there are 11 trustees plus the financial advisor plus the moderator, which makes 13. So adding 2 youth trustees to that would be a total of 15.
So there's no voting youth trustee on the board at all right now?
Correct.
Except most things we do by consensus, and we don't do voting anymore that way. So the youth that are on our board do get say and voice.
It's listened to.
Oh, yes.
But then they don't get to vote. But now they will get to vote if this passes.
If this were to pass, yes.
Thank you.
For the board statement, I recognize the youth observers at the pro mic.
My name is Bailey Saddlemeyer. I am a member of the First Unitarian Church in Providence, and I will be reading the board statement. The proposed bylaw amendments, which have been most closely formulated by Tanner Linden and Bailey Saddlemeyer in the past fiscal year, include changes to 5 different sections. These amendments will give the youth observers the opportunity to become youth trustees. By shifting the role of this position, the youth trustees would now be elected through the nominating committee. In addition, there will be a set term limit for youth trustees, as they may only serve that 2-year role once, but afterwards may serve 2 other full terms on the board as a trustee at large. The most important aspect of these proposed bylaw amendments is that the youth members of the board would be given an official vote. They do not currently possess that power.
Thank you. I recognize the delegate at the concern microphone.
Christina Habib from the Unitarian Church of Evanston. I am for youth trustees, but I am not for the fact that this neglects the ability for 16, 17, and 18-year-olds because they have to complete their term by high school age. This means they cannot be elected in. This means that older youth who may have not made this decision to run are not being able to. So as an inclusive community, we are neglecting to include the older youth.
Thank you. I recognize the delegate at the pro microphone.
Hello, my name is Oriana McCannon, and I attend the UU Church of Medford, Massachusetts, and this is Julia Landis, who is a member at Thomas Jefferson Memorial Church, UU. We are speaking on behalf of the 2018 Youth Caucus, YIGA, current, former, and oncoming youth trustees and observers, as well as former youth. The board should represent the entire community of Unitarian Universalism. This community includes a large proportion of youth who are strong, passionate, and powerful. As youth, we believe it is our right to have a vote in the largest governing body of our association, for it is important to have our opinions included. Every single person has a different perspective on the world, and while every perspective is different, there are similarities depending on their culture, age, background, etc. The board is missing the perspective of the youth.
By changing the youth observer position to a youth trustee, we are committing ourselves to upholding the inherent worth and dignity of every dedicated individual. Currently, the youth observers have the same responsibility as all the trustees at large, but do not have an official vote. This means the youth are being listened to, but never truly heard. As the upcoming generation, we are the present and the future of this faith. If we are not trusted now with the responsibility of a vote, we will never be prepared to move our community forward. We are graying, we are divided, and this vote is one step toward a more liberated and unified future for Unitarian Universalism. Thank you.
I recognize the delegate at the concerned microphone.
Robert Van from Westside UU in Fort Worth, Texas. I commend the board for including youth on the board. I spent part of the past year at my church enabling and encouraging, passing the bylaws that enable and encourage the inclusion of a youth on our board. However, I think the way this particular bylaw is written is still flawed. And the first thing is, I think that having 2 youth on this small a board with their particular outlook, I think is including giving them too powerful a vote on the board. My second point, I think you've probably answered in that there are legal problems with the youth being able to vote. I would include that in the bylaw, limiting the vote, rather than in a policy matter, which can be easily changed. I think that because of legal ramifications, that there should be a limit. The third thing is, Bailey herself had pointed out in her earlier presentation to us how difficult this has been for her, how much she's learned and how much she's been able to do, but how much she's been hurt in her high school and how much she's been left out of many of the things that are going on with her school. So I think that limiting the term to 1 year would be much better, giving these students then a chance to do something else for another year. And when they're going up before a college board, I'm not sure exactly what the college boards are looking for now, but generally speaking, what I understand is they're looking for multiple different types of activities in the community. And if these students do 1 year in the community.
All right, I recognize the off-site delegate at the procedural microphone. Are we ready? Off-site delegate, procedural mic. Okay, we are not. I recognize the other delegate at the procedural microphone.
I'd like to clarify. Jordan Young from the Champlain Valley Unitarian Universalist Society. I have a question about clarifying the rules. Since a motion to call the question is in order, as I recall, after 7 minutes, depending on other conditions, and since a motion to call the question is non-debatable, I want to be clear that doing that before 15 minutes of debate have elapsed precludes the opportunity of making any amendments to the amendment.
You're correct.
So a vote to call the question is also a vote to have no amendments.
Correct.
Thank you.
I recognize the delegate at the procedural microphone.
I'm Aisha Hauser. I'm the delegate for Church of the Larger Fellowship. I would like to, thank you. I would like to remind folks coming up to mics, please don't speak for other people. People can speak for themselves. Don't name other people and speak for them. Thank you.
Okay. Well heard. I'm going to recognize the off-site delegate at the pro microphone.
I'm speaking for Joseph Barker, UU Church of the South Hills, Pittsburgh. We need to support this amendment, take advantage of the value, talents, and ideas of our incredible youth.
Okay, thank you. I recognize the delegate at the concerned microphone.
My name is Patty Potter. I'm a member of the Unitarian Universalist Church in Fresno, California. And I just wanted to point out that this is age discrimination, the same way there can be age discrimination of people of my age and older. This is discrimination based on people of high school age. That a more appropriate way to do it would be to change the culture within our congregations, because youth can be delegates already. So I'm encouraging that and saying that it's not appropriate for bylaws.
I recognize the delegate at the procedural microphone.
Hi, I'm Reverend Nina Gray, and I'm the Minister Emerita at First Unitarian Society of Chicago. And the question I have, I want a clarification. Did you say that if a person is, say, 17 years old, but in college, that they are excluded?
Yes.
I would like to get some clarification on why that would be so, because they are of high school age, but happen to be really smart.
To answer that question, I am going to ask Bart Frost, Director of the Youth and Young Adult Office at the UUA, to answer at the amendment microphone.
Thank you.
So I recognize Bart Frost at the amendment microphone.
Hi, friends. Bart Frost, Director of Youth and Young Adult Ministries at our Unitarian Universalist Association. So within our UUA, we are focused, within the Office of Youth and Young Adult Ministries, are focused on two areas of lifespan faith development, youth and young adult. And by having a focus on 14 to 18-year-olds, or youth as we define them, high school aged, as Greg, thank you, defined for y'all, that allows us to really focus in. Now, we know that our young people are in a very wide range of educational opportunities. But when a young person moves off into university or out of the high school age, their community there, they're entering into a new developmental stage. And that new developmental stage is what we term emerging adult, which comes out of academia. And in that stage, they have different needs and different wants, and that is how we help serve and minister to them. And so a 17-year-old in college is considered, actually, would be considered a young adult, but still a minor. It is it's complicated, and it does and has worked well for us so far.
And I also note that a 17-year-old who's in college could run for trustee through our normal processes. I recognize the delegate at the pro microphone.
I am Larry Ladd, a delegate from the UU congregation in Falmouth, Massachusetts. The first time I was a delegate was 1969, the first year we had a youth caucus. That year, we youth ran a candidate for the UUA board, and that candidate lost. A youth would not run again or be elected until 2003, after the General Assembly had created a youth trustee position. That successful candidate who stands beside me, and each candidate since, many of whom stand beside me and behind me, have continued to be strong leaders within our faith community. In 2013, the youth trustee position disappeared as an afterthought in an otherwise transformational governance change. The elimination of district trustees and reduction in board size has resulted in a more diverse and innovative board. But the at-large elections that enhanced racial, gender, and age diversity has failed to reach below the age of 28, despite the best of intentions. to honor 1969, to cast a more expansive vision, let us fix it.
All right. I recognize the delegate at the concerned microphone.
Good morning. My name is Reverend Joe Cherry. I'm a delegate from the Unitarian Universalist Society of Cleveland, and I come to you today as chair of the nominating committee. And I'm talking to the next chair on the phone. My concern is in recruiting and sharing of data of minors. So I don't oppose this. I'm just asking, my concern is for guidance from the board about how to share data of minors safely. And so we would like, if this passes, some help with that.
Well heard, and I think we at the UUA will certainly partner with the nominating committee in doing that. I'm getting a thumbs up from our COO, so yes. I recognize the delegate at the procedural microphone.
Orlando Montoya, Unitarian Universalist Church of Savannah. I would like to call the question.
All right, a motion to call the question is not debatable, so get your voting cards ready. If you would like to call the question and move directly to a vote, please raise your voting card. Thank you. You can put them down. If you would not like to call the question and keep hearing debate, please raise your voting card. Okay. Off-site votes? All right, the question has been called. All those in favor of the amendment on youth trustee as amended in the mini assembly, please raise your voting card. Okay. Thank you. All those opposed, please raise your voting card. And our off-site votes, please. The motion clearly passes.